Math 8, Unit 2, Transformations. Lesson 4.2, or 4 Part 2. Transformations, rotation coordinate rules. Okay, continuing with some examples. Rotate 90 degrees clockwise around the origin. So on this one, we've got quadrilateral WKGU. And if we rotate 90 degrees clockwise, I'm going to indicate clockwise and write 90 degrees next to it. That way I don't have to think of every time I rotate it which way clockwise is. Then I rotate it, and I'm actually looking at the answer here. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just label these, because on this one we're going to discuss where the coordinate rules come in to play. So this first one, if I rotate 90 degrees clockwise, let's see what happens. It looks like all of these x values, 1, 0, 3, and 3, move into the y position, but they also change signs. And all of these y values, negative 2, 2, 2, and negative 3, move into the x position exactly. So, if we are taking a point x, y, it looks like they change places, so it's y, x. But when I move the red one here, the x moves to the last position, but it also changes sign. So if I'm going to rotate 90 degrees clockwise, xy becomes y opposite x. Okay, let's take a look at the other one here. Rotate 180 degrees clockwise. Well, it doesn't matter which direction. We're just going 180, so it's halfway around. So, you rotate the paper, memorize, rotate back. I'm just going to do it quickly here, because the point of this one is to discover what's going on with the coordinates. Okay, so let's take a look at the coordinate values here. So v started at 2, 0, and it becomes negative 2, 0. Wait, that's interesting. They stayed in the same spot, but the signs are different. So 2, 1, and 5 become negative 2, negative 1, and negative 5. Well, those are the same numbers except the signs changed. Okay, let's look at the other. 0, 3, and 0 became 0, negative 3, and 0. It looks like the x values, or the y values stayed the same except the 3 became a negative 3. Well, actually, 0 and negative 0 are the same number. So let's actually look at another point here. We've got too many that are maybe right there on the line. If I did a point here, let's call it A. Rotated 180 degrees would be A prime over here. So let's look at what happens with A. It's located at 1, 2, and A prime is located at negative 1, negative 2. So the y value 2 becomes negative 2. So it does look like it changes sign. 0 and negative 0 end up being the same thing. So it appears that when I rotate 180 degrees, the numbers stay in the same place. They just become the opposite of those numbers. So we change the signs. If they're negative, they become positive. If they're positive, they become negative. So that is rotating 180 degrees. All right. This needs to go in your notebook. After I go over everything on this page, if students are not done copying down the notes, pause the video for a little bit. So underneath what we wrote earlier, write coordinate rules. 90 degrees clockwise around 0, 0. Now clockwise, I recommend drawing this picture over here as well, because it is going to help you figure these out. In fact, if you forget them later, you can always redraw this picture. So let's think. If we do a 90 degrees clockwise rotation, that point 2, 1 becomes 1, negative 2. Notice that they switch places, and the second number becomes negative. So if we rotate 90 degrees clockwise, xy will become y opposite x. So they switch places, and the second number will end up becoming negative or changing sign. Okay, let's look at the next one in green here. 90 degrees counterclockwise is going to be in this direction, which will give us this little point, negative 1 comma 2. So it looks like they switch places again, but this time the one in the first position changes signs, becomes the opposite. So for a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation, xy becomes opposite y, comma x. And then the 180 degree rotation around, that's going to give us this point over here, negative 2, negative 1. Notice that both numbers end up in the same place, but their signs are switched. So for 180 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise rotation, xy is going to become opposite x, opposite y. And those are all the coordinate rules. I would recommend also drawing something about clockwise and counterclockwise. And these do have abbreviations. Clockwise is abbreviated CW, and counterclockwise can be abbreviated CCW. Right now would be a time to pause the video if students are not done copying the notes. Okay, continuing. Example 7 and 8. Rotate 180 degrees around the origin. I'm just going to do these on the board. We'll do 9 and 10 on the paper so you can practice with. So I start by drawing the picture. Z is at negative 1, negative 5. That's Z. K is at negative 1, 0. C is at 1, 1. And N is at 3, negative 2. So we get this shape. It's a nice little quadrilateral. We're going to rotate it 180 degrees. So I don't have to keep rereading that. I'm going to draw a picture to remind me. Now I'm going to rotate this and then rotate it back. I actually don't have this one set up to do that. So I've done these several times so I can kind of do the rotations in my head. So I rotate it halfway around, rotate it back. I'm going to memorize K. K prime ends up right here. Then I do it again. Let's do C. Now C is going to end up over here, C prime. Then I'm going to do N, rotate it halfway around. It looks like it's back 3 and up 2. There's N prime. And then I'm going to do Z, rotate it halfway around. It looks like it's over 1, up 5. Rotate it back and draw it. And I get this new shape. And it says to find the coordinates of the vertices. So these coordinates are Z prime is at 1, 5. Actually, the coordinates are easier to find than drawing the picture. Because 180 degree rotation, you just change the signs. K prime goes from negative 1, 0 to 1, 0. That's where I ended up drawing it. C prime, 1, 1 to negative 1, negative 1. And N prime is from 3, negative 2 to negative 3, 2. Okay? Now remember, just like other ones, you need to be able to connect the picture. 3 things you need to connect. The picture with the verbal description and the coordinate rule, which in this case is xy becomes opposite x, opposite y. Okay, example 8. I'm going to go ahead and skip that one so the video doesn't get much longer. And let's do number 9. Now you're going to be doing this one on your paper. So I will endeavor to make this work out where I can do it on the board and have it rotate around. So this one is 90 degrees clockwise. I'm going to go ahead and make that picture so that I don't have to keep reading 90 degrees clockwise and think about what that means. I can just quickly look at the arrow I drew and know directly which way to go. S is at 1, negative 4. W is at 1, 0. And J is at 3, negative 4. That's J. SWJ. Maybe this is triangle SJW. That's something going around in the news. All right. So let's go ahead and draw that. I'm going to try to make it so that I can rotate it on the board with you. my drawing tools to create it. And I just need to have a rotation box to put it inside. And group some things together here, and I should be good to go. Okay, now I can do the rotations with you. So 90 degrees clockwise. You're going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Oh, I need to draw it in. Memorize where it is located, and then rotate back. So W ends up being located at, so this is what you're thinking of. It's at 0 and then down 1. So I rotate it back, and I'm going to draw it at 0, -1. Now let's do it in green. So this is where W prime is. Okay, now let's do it with the next one. We're going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Let's memorize where S is. It looks like it is back 4 and down 1. So -4, -1. Go ahead and rotate back. And we're going to go back 4 and down 1 and put in S prime. And then we just have J to do. And that looks like it is located back 4 and down. Is that down 4 or 3? 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 4. I think I've actually drawn it in the wrong place. It needs to be down 3. I'm going to have to fix my mistake right here. I plotted the original J in the wrong place. So that means my triangle's a little off. I apologize if you followed what I did, then let's just go with it. So anyway, -4, -3 ends up being right here, and that's J prime. I was doing it in green. Anyway, we get this new triangle, and that's it. Yeah, let's get rid of that. So, let's try the next one. Rotate 180 degrees around the origin. We're going to do V is at -5, -3. There's V. A is at -3, 1. And G is at 0, -3. And that's G. Okay, I'm going to draw that in. And I should double check to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. -5, -3 is good. -3, 1. And 0, -3. Okay? Kind of embarrassing when you make a mistake, but they happen, so just got to go on with life and not dwell on it too much. Let me just throw a box around that to make it rotatable easily. Okay, just one more thing here and I will be ready to start rotating with you. Okay, so first, I'm actually going to draw in this shape. Let's draw it red. Okay. Now, since we're going 180 degrees around, I'm going to make a little note to myself that we are going 180 degrees around. So we start by rotating it halfway around, and we're going to memorize where the points are located. First, G is located right here at 0 and then up 3. So we're thinking of G being 0, up 3. We rotate back, and we go 0 and up 3, and that is G prime. I didn't rotate back perfectly. Okay, let's do it again. This time let's do A. Rotate it halfway around. And A is located right here at, looks like we have to go forward 3 and then down 1. Let's rotate back. And I'm going to go forward 3 and down 1, and that's A prime. Okay, let's do V halfway around. We looked at the location there. It looks like we go forward 5, up 3. So let me just memorize that for a sec. We're going to go to 5, 3 and rotate back. And then forward 5, up 3, and that is the location of V prime. And now that's all connected, and we are done with this one. Rotated halfway around. Okay, On the next page, this is also on your practice for today. This is where we're going to take the picture and match it up with a verbal description. We'll go ahead and do the coordinate rule while we're at it, because the more times you do that and write it down, the easier it'll be to remember. The more times you do something, it kind of just makes your brain start remembering things. So write a rule for each transformation. All right, the way this is written, you can see this says E and this is E prime. So the ones with the primes on are the images. So it looks like the blue ones here are our image. And the black one is going to be our pre-image. Okay, so to get from the black one to the blue one, it looks like we need to rotate. So I'm going to use the word rotate. We're going to go 90 degrees clockwise. You can use the abbreviation CW for clockwise, and we are going around 0, 0, because it does rotate around that point. Now, generally speaking, our rotations in 8th grade are around the point 0, 0. There will be a problem that has you rotate around a different point. You'll just put your pencil down on that different point and do everything in relationship to that point. Okay, now let's do the coordinate rule. The coordinate rule here, if you don't have it memorized, you can actually quickly pick a point. Let's actually look at R. R goes from -1, 3 to 3, 1. So they do switch places, and it looks like the -1 became +1. So in the last position, it has to change signs. So this ends up being y (-x). Okay, so we've got the three things matched together: the image of it happening, the visual, the verbal description, and the coordinate rule. All three of those you need to be good at working fluently between them. Okay, example 12. This one's also in your notes or on that piece of paper. I recommend that piece of paper that you fold it up and insert it into your notebook as examples with this. Maybe staple or glue it there. Anyway, so this one looks like it's going halfway around. So I'm going to call this one a rotate 180 degrees. And 180 degrees is the same clockwise or counterclockwise, so you actually don't need to indicate whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. Let's go ahead and do the coordinate rule. For this one, this is the one where, and you can pick a point, like let's pick T and T prime. T is located at -5, -4, and T prime ends up being at 5, 4. So it looks like they stay in the same position and they switch signs. So xy becomes -x, -y. Okay, there's a couple more really quickly here. Example 13, that is a 180 degree rotation. So it's rotate 180. And the coordinate rule for that again is opposite x, opposite y. Okay, example 14. Wow, let's just copy and paste. It is rotate 180. Let me see here. There we go. It's a 180 degree rotation as well. Same coordinate rule. Okay, in your assignment, on number 1, identify the transformation in each set of figures. The figure with the star next to it is the preimage. So on this one, it's not a yes, no. It's a what type of transformation is. So let's look at A together. This one is it's not a translation or a reflection. It does require a rotation, and it actually is rotating 180 degrees. If it is a rotation, I'd like you to say what kind of rotation it is. If it's reflection or translation, just say reflect or translate. So this one is going to be rotate 180 because it rotates halfway around. Okay, on number 2, you're going to perform each transformation and identify the coordinates of the image. So part A, rotate 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. And you have to start by graphing these 3 points. Let's go ahead and do that. A is at 1, 2, you go over 1 up 2, and that's A. B is at 1, 4. Probably shouldn't have written the A where I did, but it's already done. C is at 3, 3. We get this little triangle ABC. Now we're going to rotate that 180 degrees. Remember, when you do the rotations, put your pencil down on the origin, rotate it 100, or actually we're rotating 90 degrees clockwise. I need to draw my arrow, label it as 90 degrees. That way I don't have to keep rereading 90 degrees clockwise and thinking through what clockwise means. I can just look at the arrow and quickly do it. As you rotate that and rotate back, you're going to notice that A prime ends up at 2, -1. And then you'll rotate back and draw it. You'll rotate it and notice where B is. B is at 4, -1. You'll rotate back and draw it, B prime. And C, if you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, you will see it over 3 and down 3. You rotate back and then draw over 3 and down 3. And that is C prime. It does say to identify the coordinates. The coordinates A prime, B prime, and C prime. A prime is at 2, -1. That's right here. B prime is at 4, -1. And C prime is at 3, -3. Now you can also get these coordinate rules very quickly if you just take the numbers here and use the coordinate rule. But you do need the picture and the coordinates on this problem. Number 3 is a review problem. Describe 2 different sequences of transformations that will map the pre-image with the asterisk to the image. Be specific. What I mean by be specific here is, wait, where did 3 and 4 go? Oh, there's 3 and 4. 3, you're going to determine if they're proportional. That's a review from 7th grade. 4, solve for P. That's a review from 8th grade. We actually did that in the last unit, solve for a variable when other variables are present. Number 5, you're going to describe 2 sequences of transformations. It's going to include a rotation, obviously, and you need to come up with 2 different ways it could be done. Now, you could rotate first and then translate, or you could translate first and then rotate. Or you could translate, rotate, and translate again. You might be able to do some reflections too. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. Come up with two specific ways. And specifically, you'd say something like rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then translate left 7 and up 32, or whatever it ends up being. Okay, number 6. The vertices are given. Find the area of the figure. You're going to want to graph that and then find its area. Since it has 3 points, it's going to be a triangle. Remember, triangles are 1/2 base times height. Number 7, critical thinking. This one's asking about the coordinate rules, but we actually went over the coordinate rules. So once you read it and realize what it's asking, the answers are right there in your notes, because they're the coordinate rules for 90 degrees clockwise and the one for 180 clockwise or counterclockwise. And then number 8 is your reasoning. You're going to, it gives you the coordinates of the original or the image, and you're supposed to move backwards and find out where the original figure was. So see if you can do the transformations in reverse order to find out where it started.